we don't do the doom and gloom around here. Like, please, no more doom and gloom. It's just life, guys. Like, astrology is just life. Welcome to Speak to the Dark Parts, the podcast where we explore real life through the lens of astrology. I'm Caitlin, your empowerment coach and astrologer, and your guide on this journey of self-love and acceptance. Are you someone who feels like they don't fit in? Do you know deep down there's more waiting for you on the other side of fear? If so, you're in the right place. Here, we embrace the dark parts, the parts we've been taught to hide, the very parts that make us unique and beautiful, like our sensitivities, insecurities, creativity, and desires. These are the parts we learn to hide in order to fit in and make those around us feel more comfortable while denying our own truth, which leads to shame, anxiety, depression, and finding unhealthy ways to cope with living a life on someone else's terms. Through the wisdom of astrology and our own inner compass, we learn to fall in love with the parts we once wanted to hide, allowing us to shine brightly in a world that needs our light. So, if you know you're destined for more and are ready to break the mold, let's dive in. All right, so we're here with the lady of the hour who is having a nap as per usual. But we are here, myself, Caitlin, and Lady, my little ladybug, and we are going to talk about the astrology of the month of March. Guys, when I tell you that March is probably the most influential month of 2025, I mean it. For multiple reasons, and we'll get into all of these multiple reasons. There's a lot happening. And I'm probably not even going to cover it all in this podcast episode because there is a lot. But we're going to touch the major themes and things that are coming up. I got the chart in front of me. I got some notes because we love some notes. I am Jupiter in Virgo, and I do like to be organized. It brings me joy. So we have at the beginning of March, which is right now as I'm recording this on March 2nd, I'm going to get better at putting these out at the first of the month. The new moons are coinciding very closely with the first of the month. So I really don't want to inundate you guys with so much video content, so much video, audio that requires, to me, more presence almost than if I'm reading. I don't know. I'd like to hear from you. If it feels like a lot, if I put out a lot of videos in like the span of a couple days, is that too much? Let me know how you feel. I don't want to make it overwhelming, is what I'm trying to say. And sometimes I feel like if things are coming out so quick that it can feel overwhelming. So just let me know. Otherwise, you always have the option to skip things or come back to things, or, you have your autonomy, which is something we're going to talk about today, especially with Neptune moving into Aries. That's one of the big shifts of the decade. Not only the decade, but definitely the month for sure. Okay, so the first thing that I want to touch on is the amount of water in the sky. So in February and this month in March 2025, as I'm recording this, there's a lot of energy in the sky. So there's Neptune, Mercury, North Node, Saturn, Sun in Pisces, and we also have Mars in Cancer. Speaking of Mars and Cancer, it's finally gone direct, which is why I think February moved at lightning speed compared to January, which felt like 87 years long. But part of me feels like Mars retrograde had something to do with that. Now we're kind of moving forward. Mars has gone direct in Cancer, so any bumps in the road from the past couple of months should start to smooth out. It is still in the shadow phase, so while the energy is ramping up, there's still probably some getting back into the swing of things, I guess, could be a way to describe it. Our masculine energy, so our Mars is masculine energy. It's that external like output of energy. It's our sexual drive, our masculine drive, our like our drive essentially. Like if you were feeling a little bit lethargic or fatigued for the past couple of months, or it's like, oh my God, it's the new year 2025, but I just don't feel like doing anything. And also it's winter time in a lot of the parts of the world, in the northern hemisphere at least. It makes sense. But this year we had Mars retrograde on top of it. Not only Mars retrograde, but Mars retrograde in Cancer, which is the sign of like our home and our family. It is a cardinal sign though, but Mars doesn't necessarily like to be there. It is very emotional, and usually that Aries, like Mars, Martian energy just acts. It doesn't really spend that time feeling. So over the past couple of months, and even still now, while Mars is still in Cancer, our energetic output is guided by our emotional body, or it is also that part that is the protector of things that we love, people we love, our family, our home. Um, I've been dealing with some home stuff, and I think that could be part of it too. It's like, okay, it's the home, it's our family, it is how we protect the people we love as well. So our energy should be starting to ramp up. But with that being said, we do have a lot of water in the sky. So it is heavy emotions. There's a lot of stuff going on out there. There's like on a global stage, we're feeling a lot of, it's hard not to feel if we're paying attention. So it's not necessarily a bad thing to be feeling. It would be, I don't want to say more concerning if we weren't feeling, but with this amount of water in the sky, I would encourage you to take time or take space, at least give your emotional body that space to allow whatever is coming up to come up rather than suppressing it, rather than numbing it, especially with all of this Pisces energy in the sky, Pisces season. So the sun is in Pisces. The low road of Pisces energy is escapism, it's addictions, it's drinking, gambling, it's drugs, it's like all of these things, video games, like whatever can take us out of our body experience so that we don't have to feel it anymore, because it can feel very painful to feel the collective, because Pisces is that collective energy. It's all of the 12 signs together. It's the oneness, it's the merging, it's the boundless energy, it's effervescent. So, where do I end and where do you begin? Boundaries are necessary during this season and during the time that is now with all of this energy in water. So if you do need to set some boundaries, it's okay. If you are feeling a little bit lethargic, it's okay. Give yourself some space, give yourself some rest if you can, if you have that space. And just trust. Trust is the biggest thing, because it's like that trust and surrender. It's like I sometimes we got to take our hands off the wheel just to like recalibrate. And Pisces season is exactly that. Like just the end of the year. This is essentially the astrological end of the year. So this is like the December of the astrological world. So if you can, let go, surrender as much as you can, focus on what you can control. Leaning into that South Node in Virgo is great. It's like that's where our comfort is right now, and we may need to go back there to kind of find our footing, our feet on the ground, because there isn't much earth in the sky at this point. There is the South Node in Virgo and Uranus in Taurus. That's it. So if you do need extra grounding, really cultivate that earth energy in your life. To-do lists, walking in nature, getting your taxes done. It's tax season. So, like things like that, the mundane things, cleaning your house, just doing the things that you have that control over instead of trying to overanalyze, overcommit, over like do the things that you can't control. So, Venus retrograde in Aries, this is coming back to our desires. Venus represents what we value, our relationships, our needs, our wants, our finances. So, what are your current values? Where a little bit of a values audit would be nice. So, even just making a list of all of the things you value, maybe the things that you have been putting attention to, see if those things line up. Like, am I putting my attention to the things that I actually value, or am I doing things out of whatever the reason is for the sake of others, for, what I got to do, but it's not necessarily aligned with what I want, what I value? Where are you spending your money? That's a great question to ask when Venus in Aries is retrograde. Am I spending my money towards things that I value? What do you want? What do you want? So we just went through the whole cycle of the North Node in Aries, the South Node in Libra. We're still kind of like dealing with that energy with Venus in Aries, and soon when Neptune, the Sun, Mercury move into Aries as well. So really focusing on the self. We're coming back to the self. So Pisces is much about the collective, like the whole spectrum of energy, like everybody's enmeshed with everybody. And then Aries season comes along and it's like, we're back to the self. We're back to the self. So, how do you give love? How do you receive love? Is your spending in alignment with your values? Are your actions in alignment with your values? So, some questions to think about while Venus is retrograde in Aries. And look to the part of your chart where 10 degrees. So, it'll be retrograde from 10 degrees in Aries back to 24 degrees of Pisces. So, look to your chart to see if you have any planets from 24 degrees Pisces to 10 degrees Aries. And if you have anything going on there, you may notice some themes coming up, or even just look to see what house that is for you, or houses. It might span over a couple of houses. See what area of life that's lighting up for you, because we're also going to have Mercury retrograde in Aries pretty much at those exact degrees as well. So 26 degrees of Pisces to 9 degrees of Aries. So that part of your chart is like bing, 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 bing. Like we need to, it's like alarm bells are going off. Like we need to look at what's going on here. Lady is like, what the heck is going on? But that's what it is. It's like wake up in this part of your chart. If you have planets there, check what house it's in, what area of your life, and that's going to be a little bit of a review for the next at least month, couple of months, just to see, okay, am I still in alignment in these parts of my chart? Am I speaking what I mean? Am I spending money on what I believe in? Am I standing for what I value? Am I communicating from my heart and my truth? Or am I kind of like beating around the bush? Or is there a conversation that I need to have? So, Mercury and Venus. Taking a breath before we speak as well. So this will be March 15th when Mercury goes retrograde around the same degrees. I kind of jumped ahead, but we're going to jump back. It just felt fitting to go there right now, since that part of the chart is like, hello, look at me. Okay. But Mercury will move into Aries on March 3rd. So we're going to get a little bit of a taste. Thank God. If you watched the new moon workshop, it's available now, the replay. But man, oh man, like Mercury and Pisces, it's more of like an expansive, a poetic vibe. And like it can be hard to find words. And I was definitely struggling with that. It feels a little bit better today. Mercury is at 28 degrees right now. Wow, it's actually conjunct Neptune today. So I guess we can talk about that a little bit. It's just like thinking about here we go. Now I'm gone off into La La Land. Like it can be hard to get those words. It can be hard to grasp. Pisces is hard to grasp sometimes. And when Mercury is there, it's like words. Mercury is our communication. It is how we speak. It's how we like think, how we communicate. So when Mercury is in Pisces, which it has been for a little while, it can be hard to find those words right away. We may be more intuitive rather than like outwardly expressing. But when Mercury moves into Aries, things might start to speed up. Our communication may get more direct. It may be a little bit more fiery. So we may be speaking before we think, which I would recommend maybe taking a breath if things get heated. Things could also get heated because there are more retrogrades coming up. So, especially in Venus, like Venus retrograde with Mercury in Aries, it's like, if you can see my face, I'm like, now that I'm thinking about it, I didn't really think about it until right now. It's like, when Venus is retrograde, like we're reviewing our relationships. So little bumps can come up in our relationships as well. And when Mercury is in Aries, it's like it can be fiery. It can sting. Our words can hurt if we're not careful. So really making sure that we think before we speak if we can, especially in the relationships with loved ones and people who are around us and trying not to make the fire bigger than it may already be. But don't worry, like it's not a bad thing. A lot of people will say, "Oh no, Venus retrograde, like you're gonna break up." That's not always how it goes. So just get that out of your head right now. We don't do the doom and gloom around here. Like, please, no more doom and gloom. It's just life, guys. Like, astrology is just life. It's an opportunity when Venus is retrograde to pay attention. Just pay attention to the things that come up. Pay attention to any bumps in the road. Dig a little bit deeper into those bumps in the road. Be brave with Mercury in Aries. Be courageous in your communication and bring things up if it's necessary. Speak your truth. Talk about it. Don't just sweep it under the rug. Like Venus retrograde is not a time to sweep things under the rug. We may need to take a step back to get a broader perspective, but talk about it and it'll be okay. It's going to work out the way that it is meant to work out. And then March 12th, Sun is going to conjunct Saturn. So this is like a little light up point in our purpose. Like, who are we? The Sun, our identity, our life force. Conjunct Saturn, our purpose, our karma. Like, this is just that opportunity to check ourselves. Like, are we doing what we said we were going to do? There's a lot of Pisces energy in the sky, Saturn in Pisces, Sun in Pisces. So it's like, have I been actually doing the work to make this dream a reality, or have I just been sitting here on my ass and dreaming it and not actually fucking doing anything? Excuse my language, but that's the energy. It's like, I'm gonna come back to this shirt, and Sydney, if you're listening to this, dreams don't work unless you do. And this is that vibe. It's the Saturn and Sun in Pisces, the dream. Saturn working, Sun, you, Pisces, your dreams. You got to do the work to make your dreams a reality. We can't just sit here and dream all day and hope that it's going to happen. So on March 12th, this is kind of that opportunity, or maybe like a little snag in the path where it's like you might be coming up against something and it's like, do I actually want to push forward with this? Is the wall worth climbing or walking around or finding a solution? It's just like, are you still in alignment with where you're going, the mountain you're climbing? And then March 14th, not long after that little bump, or that little check-in, the full moon lunar eclipse in Virgo. So this is one of those big things that are happening in March. Eclipse season. And if you have ever paid attention during eclipse seasons, these are big. These are the opportunity or the times where it's kind of like changing the channel. I had a teacher, Rebecca Gordon, who I studied with for a while. She talked about eclipses as like the like the radio station going out and then like you're trying to find the same station as you had before, but like you can't find it again. I'm probably paraphrasing that in the worst way, but that's how I remember her saying it. It's like you can't go back. You can't go back to that old station. Whatever, especially with a full moon lunar eclipse on the south node, we're letting go. Yeah, we're just letting go of something that is no longer serving us. We're changing that channel, and it's an opportunity to kind of get back on a track that we're meant to be on. So this is happening at 23 degrees of Virgo. So check to see which part of your chart 23 degrees of Virgo is. Which house is it in? Which area of life? For me, this is my fourth house, and I've been dealing with housing stuff. So I already know that this eclipse season is probably going to be bringing more of that story to the surface. I've already been feeling it. I wonder if you've been feeling this area of your life lighting up as well, because the South Node is there. It's kind of like sweeping out. It's so funny because Virgo is kind of that energy of like sweeping, like just cleaning. We're cleaning it up. We're cleaning up the systems. We're cleaning up the area of our lives where we have Virgo, specifically 23 degrees of Virgo when this eclipse comes up. So just check to see which area of your chart this is so that you have a little bit of insight. You may already be feeling it like I have. So if that's the case, you kind of know what to expect. And it doesn't have to be a scary thing. We're not back in the Babylonian times where we didn't know what an eclipse was and we looked up at the sky and the sky goes dark and then it's like, we don't need to be scared. We don't need to be scared. We just focus on what is in our control, Virgo, and take our hands off the wheel for the rest of it. We can do the practical tidbits and find comfort in what could be chaos. Maybe you won't even feel it, but if you have placements around this part of the chart, then you may feel it a little more strongly. Or if you have like something squaring, so even like Gemini, Sagittarius, Pisces, around the 23 degree. And I would give like 10 degrees on either side. So from like 13 to maybe even some like the beginning degrees of Libra, you may feel the effects of the eclipse more deeply, but just take a look at your chart. Then, right after the lunar eclipse, Mercury will go retrograde. We already talked about that at the beginning when I talked about Venus going retrograde as well. But this is that time where, like, this is usually a time where I back up my stuff on my computer. Also, being mindful of your communication because miscommunications can happen, thinking before we speak, taking a breath before we speak, opportunities to just kind of connect with how you communicate, listening to other people, how you listen, because that is also part of communication. It can be difficult when it's in Aries to listen because sometimes we want to just say our piece. Aries is about the self, and we also have to like look to the opposite, Libra. So we need to also listen to the other as well. Every sign works in opposites. So I love to look at the opposite sign when things may feel like we're at the low road. Oftentimes, if we look to the opposite side, we can find a little bit of medicine there to find the balance again. After that, we're going to experience the Sun, North Node, Neptune conjunction. So this will be like, I didn't check the exact date, but around like, I think 18th or 19th of March, right before the Sun moves into Aries, because it's happening at the last degrees. So just paying attention to your intuition, especially with all of this stuff in Pisces, just pay attention where you're being guided, pay attention where your energy is guided, where you seem to have this like, little insight that's not going away no matter how hard you try. It's like, why does this thing, this idea, this, like, why does it keep coming up? Maybe sitting with it, it may have some wisdom for you. And then March 20th, the sun is going to enter Aries. Happy astrological new year. If you haven't done the whole new year, new you stuff, it's okay because we have another opportunity. Not that we have to wait for a new year. We can start new any old day. And I I fully believe that, but I do like these opportunities to kind of check in. It is that little like light where it's like, okay, just it's the prompt where we can come back to the self, especially coming back to the self when the sun enters Aries, which is the sign that represents the self. So this is springtime. It's the new beginnings. It's like, okay, the sun, our identity, and who are you really? Like, who are you separate from everyone else? During Pisces season, we're so enmeshed with everyone else. And as things move into Aries, it's like now we're separate. We look at ourselves as individuals. How is my individual expression contributing to my life and therefore the lives of people around me? So, self-reflection, self-development, moving towards the dreams that you planted the seeds for in Pisces season. This is that time. It's like Aries, cardinal fire. It's that action-oriented, Mars ruled, like, let's get it done now. Let's get it done. And Mars will be direct. And it's like, okay, let's do this thing. Let's move towards those dreams and do the damn thing. March 27th, Venus will re-enter Pisces, so it will be still moving retrograde from Aries, crossing back over into Pisces. So for the first half of the retrograde, we're thinking about my desires, my like how I love, my values. And then it crosses over back into Pisces, where again, it's that like collective vibe. How are my desires fitting into how the the world works, how like how I show up in community, how my desires really push growth within the bigger picture. So reconnecting with our dream as well, maybe coming back to the seeds that we planted in Pisces season. If you wanted to look at the new moon workshop, that's a great way to kind of reconnect to that dream. There's a guided visualization, a meditation that I'll take you through, and journal prompts as well to kind of pull that out. And it could be a good time to revisit that. And then on the 29th, the new moon solar eclipse. So we have the second eclipse of this eclipse season. It's a new moon solar eclipse at 9 degrees of Aries. So this is like more of that Aries energy, that fiery energy. So we're coming back to the self. What do I want? What seeds am I planting? Now, I will preface this with, although it's a new moon, it's also an eclipse. So eclipses, we don't really have, I don't even do my new moon circles during eclipse season. So we are taking a break until Taurus season, but I like to take my hands off the wheel a little bit. It's like, okay, the eclipse is gonna eclipse. It's gonna do its thing. And no matter how much force I put into it, my hands are kind of tied. So, of course, my awareness is there. I'm noticing, I'm watching, but like, it's not necessarily the time for action unless the events that unfold ask for it. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? If I'm being pushed into something or if I'm being guided into something, then I'm gonna take the action. I'm not just gonna sit on my ass, but I'm not gonna like intentionally move toward it unless it's like, yes, like this is so clear. I'm gonna go that way because that's what the universe, God, spirit, my higher self, whatever the heck you want to call it, like that's what's right for me. So just a note on eclipses. So if I were a betting woman in April, our lives are going to look different. And eclipses are exciting in that way. Maybe they're just exciting for me this year because I know there's a lot of changes coming up and I'm ready for them. As scary as it is for things to change, but with all of this energy in Pisces, like there's so much mutable energy in the air, like in Pisces, Jupiter is in Gemini. Like we're letting go of a lot of things. And as things start moving into cardinal signs, we're beginning new things. So I would imagine that this year is going to be a year of change for many people. And then Neptune, speaking of things moving into cardinal signs, Neptune will enter Aries. This is a huge deal. March 30th, Neptune will enter Aries. It was in Pisces since 2011, guys. So, like, just to give you a little bit of context, that's a long time. Like, Neptune has been in Pisces since 2011. So, I would recommend this is something that I've been doing unconsciously in my dreams, revisiting how my life has changed since 2011, which is wild because it's just bringing up stuff from when Neptune and Pisces crossed over my midheaven. My whole life changed. So reflecting on what has gone on in the area of like where you search for meaning or your spirituality, like how you practice spirituality, how you're connected to something outside of yourself, something greater than yourself. So that is Neptune. It's like where are we looking for meaning? Where do we derive meaning from? Where do we find connection to something greater than us, something higher than us? So for me, that has changed exponentially, especially since Neptune crossed my midheaven. And then it will be in Aries. So Neptune will be in Aries until 2039. So this is a long time. You can see why it's a big deal. It will be in Aries until 2039, other than it retrograding back to Pisces first. So it's going to go through that threshold thing. So we have the opportunity to kind of get a taste of it for a couple of months. Then it will retrograde back to Pisces and go back into Aries. I think around the beginning or middle of 2026, it will go back into Aries. So where we search for meaning, like I said. So Aries is the self. It's autonomy. It's like I kind of get the sense that this is where a lot of people will find God from within. It's like the idea of I don't need to go to a church to find God. Whereas when Neptune was in Pisces, that's more of like that God consciousness, that type of spiritual journey. And I feel like when Neptune is in Aries, we're going to learn to really find self-compassion, to find love within ourselves, to find spirit within ourselves, to like feel that connection with the divine through being wholly ourselves. Holy. I didn't even mean to do that, but it's like that's the vibe. It's like I am a piece of the greater human experience. Like we are spirit, we are uh an embodiment of the creator, of the universe, of God, of the stars and the planets and the earth and everything. Like we're not separate. But this could also bring a little bit of that separation where it's like I need to go on my own for a little bit and like figure myself out. So I'll probably talk a lot more about this because it's a big deal and it's a big topic, and I don't want to take up too much of your time here in this podcast. But just to wrap it up, the beginning of March, there's a lot of water, a lot of feelings, a lot of flow. And by the end of the month, we're going to feel more fire in the sky. So we're going to get more of that, like that beginning energy, like starting new things, eclipse season, a lot of changes coming, especially in the area of Virgo, Aries, looking to where those places are in your chart to see where that's going to be in your life. And also retrograde. So Venus, Mercury retrograde, thinking about that area like the 24 degrees of Pisces to 10 degrees of Aries, that area of your chart. Where are you reflecting? And take some time to reflect on that area of your chart, as well as the Pisces area of your chart as we close up the Neptune and Pisces decade and more than a decade. So really just reflecting on how you've grown since 2011. And if you have any questions, if you have anything to share, anything that came up as you were listening to this, put it in the comments. I want to hear from you to kind of see how you're navigating. I love hearing your stories. I love hearing how this energy is expressed through every individual because we're all different. We're all built different. We all handle things differently. So to hear from you is one of the greatest things that like I just love so much. So thank you for allowing my dreams to come true, because this is one of my favorite things, is to connect with you and connect you to the stars, which connects you to yourself. What more could I ask for?